In this video, we're going to talk about some factoring shortcuts. You can always use the full splitting method, but there's two situations where you can just factor a little bit quicker and save yourself some time. So the first factoring shortcut is when a equals 1, which means there's no number in front of our x squared. When you have that special situation, you don't need to do the full splitting method. You can just find the special numbers, and those are your answer. So what does this mean? We have x squared plus 6x plus 8. I know I can do the special method because there's no number in front of this x squared. But I have to add to the middle number 6 and multiply to the product of 1 and 8, which is 8. The special numbers that do that are 2 and 4. I don't have to split 6 into 2 and 4. I can just go straight to my answer, x plus 2, x plus 4. Right, so this method is really useful. When there's no number in front of x squared, you don't have to do a lot of extra steps. Right, here again, we need to add the 2, multiply to negative 15. That's positive 5 and negative 3. Because there's no number in front of x squared, you can go straight to your answer, x plus 5, x minus 3. Just make sure you only do this when there's nothing in front of x squared. That's the reason I teach it to you after the full method. It's because this is a shortcut, not something you should be doing all the time. All right, make sure you only do it in the appropriate circumstance. All right, shortcut number 2 is a difference of squares. So if you have two perfect squares being subtracted, you factor them as kind of the square roots, and then you just put a minus sign in one and a plus sign in the other. That's your x squared minus 9. Well, x squared is just x being squared. All right, so it is a perfect square. And 9 is 3 being squared. So I can put this x and this 3 in that pattern, just put them both twice, and put a minus sign in one and a plus sign in another. All right, you could still do the splitting method with this, all right, but there's no middle terms. You have to think about it as 0x. All right, so if you forget the difference of squares, you have to remember this other little trick of putting that 0x in there so you can do the splitting method still. 25x squared minus 81. 25 is 5 times 5, so that's 5x being squared. 81 is 9 being squared, so I can put the 5x and the 9 in a little pattern, and I get my factored form. So this one is the one that saves the most time if you recognize it's a difference of squares. So you can pretty much go directly to the answer. There's some factoring shortcuts. Make sure you only use them in the appropriate circumstance, especially that first one. Make sure you're doing this full splitting method unless there's no number in front of that x squared.